by and large, you can structure it in a way so that a REIT can put solar or, there are some other types of renewable energy you see, but let's focus on solar. Solar on their properties, generate good income, have that qualify as part of the overall real estate asset.
Joining me today is Shelley, partner with Morrison Foerster. Shane, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
Now, recently, the IRS issued a private ruling to a taxpayer, essentially holding that a company wouldn't necessarily fail to be a REIT, even though it had zero assets and income in its first year. Was this an issue for your clients, and do you feel that that private letter ruling resolved the issue?
So that was an issue for clients that overlooked the issue. The reality is that if you're helping a client set up a REIT, that issue might be forefront of your mind, and it's relatively easy to solve by just buying some simple REIT compliant assets and generating some REIT compliant income. But that doesn't always happen. People do things themselves, whatever, things get missed. So it did come up from time to time. I think the IRS reached the right result, which is good. I probably would still, just because it's a private letter ruling, have clients playing around it if they think they really are otherwise going to have zero income and zero assets to start. But I think it was the right answer.
And what are you seeing regarding increased renewable energy use by REITs and their tenants? And can you explain some of the tax issues that's behind this?
Yeah, well, renewable energy is everywhere. And depending on the property type, I see when properties are being developed, solar in particular being a key asset that goes along with the development. Another thing you're seeing a lot of is EV charging stations. In terms of the tax treatment, I think there's a few things. One is it going to be a good real estate asset? And is it going to generate good rent? And by and large, you can structure it in a way so that a REIT can put solar or, there are some other types of renewable energy you see, but let's focus on solar. Solar on their properties, generate good income, have that qualify as part of the overall real estate asset. There's some issues in some states where you have things like net metering and the possibility of a REIT being able to sell electricity back to the grid. That still, in my mind, is an open question, but I think most people would view that as problematic. And so you have to be careful with how you size your project. The other thing that's been great, we'll see if it continues, was the Inflation Reduction Act and the ability to monetize credits generated by renewable energy. And one thing that I do see with clients, depending on the size of their properties, is, and this also relates to the net metering, so it's kind of part of the same issue of sizing your project. But if you are a project that's above 1 megawatt, you end up having to jump through more hoops to get the full 30% credit as opposed to the lower credit.
And can you explain the related party rent issue due to double downward construction attribution faced by public REITs that raise capital for investment through joint ventures and how they deal with that issue?
So double downward attribution is a mouthful and also a bit of a brain teaser. Where you see that, it gets worse and worse the more complicated your joint venture structure is. But let's just take a simple example. I'm a REIT. I put cash or assets into a joint venture. I bring in a third party that puts in, let's say, cash, and we put our cash and our assets into a REIT subsidiary of our joint venture. Now, that other investor is likely to own other investment assets, and it's possible that that other investor is going to own what will eventually become a tenant of the underlying real estate. So that's the problem. Double downward attribution refers to attributing the assets of the co-investor down into the joint venture and then down into the REIT subsidiary. It gets a lot more complicated. It gets kind of fanciful. And I think that's part of what drives people crazy. It's like you tell a client about this and they're like, come on, like that's ridiculous. And you can have like a very complicated structure chart and like this is theoretically possible. I think there's actually some decent arguments that that's not the way the law works. But the reality is if you can plan around it, if you can diligence it, go ahead and do it rather than rely on what are still untested arguments. I think what you see with joint ventures generally with REITs is you're going to have to do periodic diligence. And one of the items you're going to try to diligence is what else does your joint venture partner own? In some cases, that can be impractical. And so you end up with a kind of like, what approach am I going to take? Am I going to go crazy on diligence? Or am I going to take like a hear no evil, see no evil type approach? And frankly, I see the full gamut.